Welcome to Today in Brevard. I'm Matt Reed. Today we go one-on-one with Brevard County School Board Chairman Robert Jordan. And you'd better believe we'll talk taxes, school politics, and the state of education here on the Space Coast. Thank you, Robert, for joining us here at One Gannett Plaza. The big news for everyone in Brevard County is the proposed property tax increase for schools, now under consideration by Mr. Jordan and the school board. If you're crunching numbers at home, it means a .25 mil increase, and that would offset an expected tax rate decrease mandated by the state of just over .2 mils. So let's take a look at the net result for homeowners. For a home assessed at $200,000 minus a homestead exemption, it means a tax increase of $8.40 per year, or 70 cents per month if you escrow. Robert, here are the positions that you and two others have already taken on school taxes.
I'm not bashful. I will tell you that I'll be voting for the quarter mil. It just makes sense. Even if we don't do it, it's going to be advertised that we're doing an increase. And that's just the way it is because of the way the law states that we have to talk about the budget. But we're not hiding behind that. I'm not going to hide behind that. I just know that when you talk about this economy, you talk about where people are today, I think it's just indicative of this school board to do the right thing when it comes down to our employees.
And when I see, the figures as to exactly how many dollars that's going to be on a $100,000 home or whatnot, as Mr. Jordan said earlier, you could buy a gallon of milk for that, or you could go out to dinner for that. So it gets to the point where I don't want to say it's insulting towards educators, but maybe I should be bold enough to say it's insulting towards educators, that we would have people in our society today that would sell education down the river for a gallon of milk.
In this economy, any new tax is going to be a tough sell for any governmental entity. Nobody wants to see schools harmed. Nobody wants to see people lose their jobs. The reality is schools have been treated better than anybody else in this government from the top down, from the state level to the local. They've been taken care of pretty well. It's going to be a tough sell to get an extra tax out of people here.
Robert, tell me, why is a tax increase necessary?
Matt, and I believe that a tax increase is necessary because, number one, we had $100 million taken away from us last year. And number two, the quality of education for Brevard County is extremely important to the community. And if we don't do this, not only would we continue to lose the $100 million, but we certainly would lose the quality of education that Brevard Countyans deserve and they demand of us. I certainly cannot, in good conscience, do the wrong thing just to save a few pennies a day. If you really think about it, the 70 cents a month equates to about 16 cents a week, or 2.3 cents a day. To me, it's negligible. Even though people will talk about, well, that's still my money, you got to also understand this is not about paying a tax. This is about an investment in our kids' future. The
tax increase would raise, I believe, $8 million per year?
$8.3 million, yes.
And the latest figures that I saw were what? After you include the stimulus money and the like, how much is the school board looking at having to cut next year?
As far as humans, I hate to say it like this, but as far as us laying off people, we're talking about maybe about 44 people. If we don't do this, we're talking about laying off at least 300 employees. And out of those 300, there's approximately 87 teachers that we would have to lay off. We don't believe that's a smart thing to do.
How do you respond to somebody who says that any tax at this point in a recession is not warranted, or who said that the potential decrease that that was cited earlier is something that they really need and want?
Well, first of all, I always like to explain to people, it seems that for some reason they think that those who have the power to administer taxes on others don't feel it also. The same taxes that any ordinary citizen would have to pay, I have to pay also, and sometimes I pay more than others. So, you know, I cannot take a myopic view because I was put in a position to take care of our children. That's what I'm going to do. And I don't mind taking the pressure of those who say, I don't want to pay any more taxes. I understand what they're saying, but sometimes, especially in hard times, this is when we have to make the tough decisions, and I don't have a problem doing that.
Well, I think everybody wants to take care of kids. The question that I hear a lot is, why can't the school district solve its problems with more private fundraising, for example, or more student fees for activities and sports and that kind of thing?
The problem with that, Matt, is very simple. First of all, when you talk about adding more fees to a child's day or a child's curriculum, there are a lot of students that cannot afford it. Their parents cannot afford to pay any more fees. I myself, I have a daughter who is in the music program. I'm amazed at the amount of money I have to give every month to the school system in order for her to participate. And I even say to her, yes, we can afford it because she's from a two-income family, but there are so many families out there that don't make the money that we make, and they are complaining. So if we're looking for the parents to give more back to the school, the first thing most parents say is we give enough. It's a public education. We should be able to get all of these things because we've already paid for them. As far as going to industry to ask for more, we actually have a record number of industries that actually give us money as it is. For the industry is in trouble because the economy is in trouble, and I think we are tapped out when it comes down to asking more and more from the industry.
Now, is this a permanent tax if approved, and will it eventually go to a public vote?
Absolutely, and that's what I like about it. First of all, we 5 board members have to make a decision. And what the legislators have done is said it can't just be a simple majority. It has to be a supermajority, which means 4 out of the 5 board members has to agree to this. I personally believe that our board is ready to do the right thing, and I'm looking for a 5-0 vote on Tuesday night.
Okay. I want to shift gears and take us back to February to a town hall meeting with state lawmakers on education funding that drew a riled up crowd and thousands of people by my count to the King Center in Melbourne. At the time, school officials here wanted our state politicians to find or raise new taxes for education. And in one of the most critical political moments of the year here in Brevard County, Superintendent Richard Tipatry took the mic and called out the delegation. Here's the clip.
I started out tonight not to respond, but I need to tell you, and Representative Workman, I would suggest to you, the local tax you're talking about, it's not, why do we want to tax Brevard only for what is a state responsibility? You know, when we started this, if I could finish my statement, when we started tonight, we all said we want to listen, and all we asked for is straight talk, okay? Straight talk. No, that's not straight talk, Representative. Believe me, it's not. Education, understand, it's a constitutional responsibility, not for the local taxpayer in Brevard County. You've already shifted the burden. We've gone from 42nd in the state, 20th in the nation to 42nd. We are not eligible for the stimulus package in the state of Florida.
Now, eventually, we did qualify for that stimulus, but after that event, local Republican Party Chairman Jason Steele told me, and I quote, "Tipatry kicked their bleeps." Now, Robert, government managers usually avoid politics and leave that to elected officials like you. Now that Superintendent Tipatry has announced his retirement, what is your assessment of this superintendent's leadership?
Dr. Tipatry has done an excellent job. It amazes me that when I first started on the school board, I sat down with him And one of the things I told him was that I expected him to be the leader. I expected him to, push us to the next limit. I honestly believe that if our children are going to have a successful life, they have to have a great education. But before they can have a great education, we have to make sure that we are giving them the things that they need. And with the board's vision and Dr. DePatry's execution of that vision, I knew that we were going to have a very good system, and that's exactly what happened under his leadership.
Why has the school board tacitly endorsed the kind of political statements that Mr. DePatry made? Will you expect the same kind of activism or outspokenness from the new superintendent who's coming in, Superintendent Brian Bengali?
That's an interesting question, and the way I will answer that is because I love people, and I tend to watch people in their character. Dr. DePatry is a unique human being. Dr. DePatry came from New Jersey, and there's a certain characteristic there. Brian Bengali, he's from Fairfax, Virginia, and he's quieter, I will tell you. But I don't think that Brian has less drive than Dr. DePatry, but they, I promise you, will have a different tact on things. The bottom line to me is I need someone to get the job done, and Dr. DePatry has done that, and I have all the belief in the world that Dr. Bengali would do the same thing.
Why was it so important to you to have a unanimous vote to hire Bengali?
It's very simple to me. I like people to get along. And first of all, if you're going to start a relationship with anyone, you certainly need to start off by knowing that those on the side that will basically determine your future likes you. If I had gotten 3-2, I would have felt real bad. I would not want to be the person who's coming into an environment where I know 2 board members didn't want me as the superintendent. So I insisted on it, but I believe that the board wanted it also, and it didn't happen. So we were very blessed to get the 5-0 vote. It didn't happen with Dr. DePatry, by the way.
What was that vote?
I think that vote was 3-2.
Well, and look what happened.
And look what happened, right. But that, just because it happened, that don't mean it would happen again. And I just didn't want to take that chance. I needed our board to be united around this man who's going to take us to the next level. And that's important.
Okay. Let's turn to the classroom, or for that matter, the lab, music room, or sports field. On January 12th, I interviewed Mr. Jordan about school spending, and he seemed to draw a distinction between basic education and something else. Robert, here's what you told me then. Quote, "We've been able to not harm any of our employees, and the kids are still getting educated. But," you said, "we are at a time of reckoning is at hand. If we are trying to bring more business to the state, this is not the way to do it." Robert, today you work for United Space Alliance. You have a couple of degrees yourself. What is it that you had in mind when you were telling me about this expanded type of education that you'd like to see, or were you simply talking about money?
No, money always divides people. What I like to focus on is the quality education that our children need. And what bothered me about what was going on was it didn't seem at the time that those who are making the laws really cared enough about our children. Now, I also understand that the legislators certainly have other groups that they have to take care of. I understood that. But I was hired to do a job, and my job was to ensure that the education for our kids was a quality education. But because of what was going on, because of the economy, because of all the talk about we were going to be reduced even more,
right,
I thought it was time for us to speak up and let the people know that we have a big problem. And by the way, even though we're getting the stimulus money, it's only good for 2 years. Even though I believe we're going to vote 5-0 for the quarter meal, after 2 years, the people have to vote to decide to continue it. We're going to be in bad shape in 2 years. But I always believe that if we got a year, if we've got a day extra to give quality education to our kids, then that's what we're going to do.
The reason I brought up your occupation and the fact that you have some degrees earlier was what I was getting at was you have a pretty good worldview and a good sense of what technology industries in Brevard County want. Is there anything about your education and your occupation that guides your decisions about education on the school board?
God, it's so much.
Well, you don't have to wrap up an entire career. in a
Okay,
minute,
I
but
won't
just-
do that, but I will tell you this. What I have observed, and because I love technology, and kids love technology, you cannot think of education as a basic reading, writing, and arithmetic. That is old news. Kids will not sit in the classroom and you try to teach them out of a book, reading, writing, arithmetic, without getting into the fundamentals of what am I going to use this for, okay? They've got Twitter, they got Facebook, they've got the computers, which we didn't have when we were growing up. You know, they make web pages to dance with you. They have things that we never thought of when we were growing up. It is indicative of us as adults who have the power to make the right decisions, to listen to what the kids are looking for, and to make sure that industry is getting what they're looking for, and that's kids who understand technology. And that's where we're focused.
I was going to ask you about what kinds of things we need to focus on, and I'm glad that you answered the way that you did, and I want to revisit a comment of Mr. Jordan's from when he was first elected to represent District 1, which includes Titusville and Port St. John. In a 1994 campaign interview, Florida Today asked you, Robert, to, quote, identify one idea that you think will improve academics in the Brevard School District, i.e. an idea that will make test scores go up, unquote. Your answer then, quote, the best way to make test scores go up is to get back to basics. Reading, writing, and arithmetic, speaking and listening. When we concentrate on these, the scores will rise. So I want to come back. How do you square what you said then with what you believe now?
It's very simplistic. Reading, writing, and arithmetic is the basics. You got to have those things before you can go into technology or what have you. But I will tell you, in 1994, the technology certainly wasn't where it is today. That was a very long time ago, but I will tell you that when it comes down to our children, especially K through 3, the first 3 years of a child's life, they are learning to read. After the 3rd grade, they read to learn. So you have to have the basics of understanding what you're reading and understand how to read before you could even start Twittering or Facebooking or anything like that. So things have changed a bit. Those basics are certainly required, but we got to get beyond that. We cannot just stay and stick our heads in the sands and say, this is all we're going to teach our kids.
Quickly, how much longer will you serve on the school board?
You know, that's an interesting question because I've always said that God has blessed me to be on this board, and we've accomplished a great deal. And my term is up next year. I've said that I still have the interest, I certainly have the willpower, and I still have the love of education. So more than likely, I hate to predict because people tend to want to use it against you. I will say I will stay there as long as I feel that I'm making a difference.
And I know that you have the Sunshine Law to keep in mind, but do you think you have the votes on the board right now to pass that tax increase that's...
Right. I don't know what the other board members are going to do, but I can tell you my feeling, and I tend to trust my feelings. I believe that we have the majority of the board, and I even want to venture to say that I think we'll probably get a 5-0 vote for that. I'm hoping
Really?
that's what's going to happen, yes, and that's
You
what I'm
like
looking
those
forward
unanimous votes?
to. You know, everything I know we're not going to get a unanimous on, but when it becomes this important, I really believe that we should send a strong message that we're 100% behind what is right for the kids.
Okay. Well, that's our program. My thanks to Robert Jordan. Hope to see you here and on FloridaToday.com every Wednesday at 11:30 and 4:30. And we leave you with a look at the political satire of Florida Today's award-winning editorial cartoonist, Jeff Parker. I'm Matt Reed. We'll see you next week.